things that we've done, we meaning humanity, that we've learned about in the history books that we think is absolutely primitive, just unbelievable. And we think how is that behavior tolerable back then? Because today it would be intolerable. We wouldn't be able to do, it just doesn't make any sense. And we think that that's some sort of a societal evolution, which in a sense it is, right? There's always that ability to correct, and that comes from the understanding that, okay, maybe we are doing things improperly. Maybe we do need to adjust. Maybe we do need to um be a little more tolerant in certain areas. Though then, like you said, that middle way, I think that openness to become more tolerant is taking, like, it's like you're giving an inch and somebody takes a mile. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna really grab on that ability to be tolerant, and I'm just going to throw that out and say, now we have to tolerate everything. And then I think that's where the societal implosion comes in. There needs to be that like almost firewall where you're allowing for a certain degree of tolerance, because that's where change comes in. That's where that ability to progress comes in. It's also the ability to degress. It's also the ability to go backwards. And so there does need to be that check, but it doesn't happen unless there's a certain degree of tolerance. Because if you're completely intolerant, then you've walled yourself in, and you might as well be a nihilistic atheist at that point, because you're not tolerating the idea of meaning or purpose. You're not tolerating the idea that there is the infinite there. You're intolerant to that idea. And so that level of tolerance is the chaos equation, because that's where the potential lies. And that's where, okay, we have a certain degree of fallibility. We might fail at this, but at least we're giving it a try. And then we learn, okay, the oven was hot, the stovetop was hot then. So no, now we're not going to tolerate that behavior, because we know that if we try to do that, it regresses us. It's like, again, the analogy, Frank eats the berries. Now we know that those berries aren't able to be eaten. We can't tolerate that kind of behavior, because if everybody ate those berries, there would be nobody left. So it is kind of that knife's edge, that razor's edge, uh, to a degree. And I think that is a very interesting topic. Um, yeah.
Right. So uh, from that perspective, like, okay, well, we've learned, we need to learn, and we need to learn what not to tolerate. Well, there would be a lot of people that would say we have learned that communism doesn't work, and so we need to not tolerate communist thinkers, writers, teachers. Okay, well, I mean, that's clearly not the path we've chosen. And if we suddenly embarked on it and we're just like, no more tolerance for communism, we're back to sort of a McCarthy era, and then it goes underground, and people, it has the cool factor of like, oh, it's the persecuted thing that people don't want to talk about. Um, so you can be the other side is you can be intolerant on the side of not just chaos and nihilism, but you can be intolerant on the side of what you might say is goodness, righteousness. You can say, well, this all I know all these paths lead down a bad road, so we're not going to do them. Um, but then you become authoritarian, right? Then you're saying, I know this sufficiently so that I can mandate it for everybody else. So it gets really, really messy real quick on trying to figure out, well, where's the line, and how do we draw it, and how do we enforce it? And then that, conflicts with ideals of freedom of, well, I'm supposed to figure out things myself, and look into things even if it's not generally supported. And there's Like there's good that comes out of that. There's things that are being repressed that need to not be repressed. So so it gets very complicated very quickly as you expand again, like we talked about last time, you expand beyond just the direct observation and you get to groups of people sharing information and to some degree trusting each other, to some degree not trusting each other. Um, and since we have this principle of freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of inquiry, like freedom to figure out things for ourselves and to try new things, how do you it's not simply enough people have said this doesn't work and it's clearly wrong, therefore we draw a line. Uh, very few things are like that. Like murder, that's that's just universally agreed upon pretty much. Like that's a line. But even today, like stealing, people are like, well, I mean, private property, I mean, that's kind of mad. So we should like looting is a good thing. And
Right.
like really, we're gonna start pushing the line on stealing too. So, and then that brings us back to we have to hold the line sometimes. So it's really, I mean, it's really messy. And by messy, I don't mean like, oh, messy, it's a little muddy. It's like you're stepping on people's toes. And that's still a metaphor. Like we're gonna have conflict. Like the world's gonna involve conflict. And the more disunified people are, the more um, untrusting people are of each other, which to some degree we have to be because some people abuse trust. But the more that spreads, the more likely we end up in a more physical conflict than just intellectual disagreements.
Right.